So, let me tell you something that you should have already realized by now about this fucking show you're listening to. This shit is supposed to be for mature audiences, as in grown-ups, mentally mature. It's supposed to talk about adult subjects, an adult frame of mind. It's not fucking that at all. This is two emotionally regressed, broken half-wits pretending to offer insight on movies. All they really offer you is an endless sexual perversion and a laundry list of personal paraphilia issues. You can make your own choices in life, but you have to choose this as entertainment. You know you're better than this. You have to know you are better than listening to Cinema Psyops.
Disturbing, just wait, because there is a whole other dimension.
Do you know what your children are watching? Well, parents and psychologists are very concerned. Fair warning, though, there is some graphic violence in this, but we say that for you, not your kids. They've probably already seen it.
You have to know you are better than listening to Cinema Psyops.
I like gore. I love blood and guts and stuff, you know. It turns me on, you know, ever since I was a little kid. I love the feeling of being scared, you know.
Kids call them slasher or splatter movies, and they get together to watch them at gross out parties. The movies are extremely violent, sexually provocative, and have graphic displays of mutilation.
I see them with my friends, and we see who can keep their eyes open the longest.
Slumber Party Massacre. That was a classic. This guy just goes around killing people. That's the plot of all scary movies. CIA-EMA! PS-OBS! CIA-EMA! PS-OBS!
You have to know you are better than listening to Cinema Psyops.
Kids get the movies from the horror section. Most of the violent movies are rated R and aren't supposed to be seen unless you're 17 years old. Others are made directly on videotape and bypass the rating system altogether.
CIA-EMA! PS-OBS! CIA-EMA! PS-OBS! CIA-EMA! PS-OBS!
Welcome to the 362nd consecutive week of Cinema Psyops. I'm your host, Court, the guy who's feeling slightly better this week, so is going to give way more than he fucking should as far as energy goes in the show, and trying not to match me in that because he's fucking tired or probably hungover or it's just too goddamn early on a Saturday morning is my co-host, Matt.
It's like all three of those things. Like, I don't know. Nah, I'm not hungover. But I am tired. I'm always tired now.
Yeah?
But I'm an old man. That's what happens.
I'm starting to finally feel a little bit better. The stuff that's in my ears, I still have problems with once your ear canals start getting irritated and or not necessarily infected, but just irritated by nasty shit from your sinuses, they don't open back up so quickly. They don't go away from being irritated like that for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of suffering from that. But everything else I'm feeling a lot better at least. So there is that.
That's good.
I'm still slightly in Kathleen Turner overdrive for this week, but not nearly as bad as I was last week.
No, yeah. You don't sound like a murder mom or serial mom or whatever the fuck that movie was.
Pussy Willow.
Jesus Christ.
Speaking of murdering in moms, this week we have Ju-on The Beginning of the End.
Yeah, man. Kind of rewrites the story.
It's a franchise reboot. They actually call this a reboot timeline.
Okay.
In the Ju-On Wikipedia, which is the unending resource for everything you need to know about Ju-On. It's unimpeachable and unquestionable. This is considered timeline 2 we are now in, which we have seen.
That's
in the
what
Ring
I thought,
series.
because I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, same names, but a completely different story. It's like a different universe.
Right. It's a reboot from the franchise. So which Kyoko we get in Sadako versus Kyoko, I have no clue. At this point,
amazing.
Because this is closer in time to Sadako versus Kyoko than the other series, or the timeline 1 that we just finished up with Black Ghost, White Ghost, which even Black Ghost, White Ghost, it was kind of like, well, how is this tied in? Because you just saw Yoshio.
Yeah.
Like, Yoshio like a couple of times, and that was it.
That is true. And you're just like, all right.
Yeah, and it was like a homeless guy that was looking for his mom with him, and that was in Black Ghost, and they just said that his mom was black, or all black, or whatever. Like the homeless guy was saying that. So I think that's what they were trying to say, is like the spirit left from the Kyoko rebirth is just the negative spirit we saw in other parts of the movies. Like
Possible.
That's the only thing that I can figure out. I just recently listened back to the episode because we're doing this so close together. I just finished the second edit.
Or they're just looking for money, and there's really no way to even make any of this make sense.
Well, that's possible. And whenever you get a storyline that wraps up so neatly like it does in the second Grudge from 2003, trying to do what they did with Black Ghost and White Ghost almost seems worse than what they just did here, where they're like, so this is like an alternate timeline version.
I agree.
Of a different history.
I did not like what they did with those, but I definitely liked what they did here. Just, all right, fine. Yeah, we're just rebooting. We want to be able to tell this story, but there's only so much ways you can tell the same story over and over again, so we're going to change some details.
Well, The Curse had become
a higher budget movie. This is by Universal, so.
Yeah, well, The Curse, it was released here by Universal, I believe, so I don't know who else backed it, but yeah, the logo at the start of our version of the film had Universal on it, absolutely.
Well, it appeared to have more money behind it.
Well, there is a Universal Japan, too, so I'm not saying that that's not the case, but yes, this is definitely a bigger budget than any of the other ones, even, really.
Yep.
But I was kind of getting at with the reboot and them just jumping back and going to an alternate timeline, I think they just basically wanted to tell the same story of The Curse, but like from a different starting point. And this one is really interesting. I like the way that they actually do the timeline, and I can't wait to actually talk about it. So
yeah, no, I really like the way they did this movie. Yeah.
Well, let's
because they completely and utterly changed who the bad guy is.
Sort of, yeah, but at the same time, it's still
kind of a sympathetic bad guy, but they just changed who it is.
Yeah, they somehow made it more tragic and less violent for the origin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We want to talk about it so bad. Let's just stop fucking around and let's just do it, all right?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to play the special introduction from our new owner and proprietor, Kevin, and a little announcement about the giveaway, which is actually, I guess, still happening because Kevin hasn't been like, dude, stop playing that already.
What are you doing?
Right. And then after that, we'll have our regular Legion Patreon ad. And this week for the all-female lineup Japanese bands, I kind of went back to the well and I picked bands that I've really been enjoying personally. So up first is Baby Metal with Papaya.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin. As many of you probably have heard, Bo will be heading back to school to become a teacher. Congratulations, Bo. As such, I'll be taking over the reins, managing and spreading the good word of Legion Podcasts. To kickstart things off, as an added thank you for patrons in June, Legion plans to have Steam code giveaways for current Patreon backers. A random person will be picked from the Patreon every other week or twice per month, and the winners can choose from the available Steam codes. Thank you so much for supporting Legion Podcast. You can reach me on Twitter or the Legion Discord group. My username is @LonelyBob. See you around.
This'll keep it quiet. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you. You call me Cutting a New Show. I'm Bo Ransdell, and I'm one of the many creators you can find on Legion Podcasts. I said quiet! My fellow podcasters and I work hard to bring you the best in horror podcasting, but that comes at a cost.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
Not that, but also yes. No, what I'm getting at is that there are server costs, costs for good microphones and software for editing, all the things that make our shows, fun to listen to. And you can help. If you're enjoying the shows on legionpodcasts.com or in the Legion Network available on iTunes and Stitcher, just about anywhere you can download a podcast, really, you can help us out and get a little something for your trouble at patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. For just $2 a month, you get a pair of movie commentaries exclusive to Patreon, and for $5, you can also join us for a monthly screening of a movie. All of that available on patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. We appreciate it, and thank you for listening. Now, back to the cutting room.
Sucked into that. Baby Metal and Papaya. That was fucking awesome.
That was really good. That was some good shit to wake you up in the morning.
I still think it's really fucking funny that this kind of music is something that you never even knew you needed in your life.
Yeah, never did. I never knew I would enjoy it this much.
The hybrid of like pop and metal and grind and all the other weird shit that they do, and just Baby Metal alone is totally worth listening to. And like, it's Japanese pop, so it's like really like bubblegum saccharine fucking pop mixed in with metal, and it should not work. You should fucking hate it. Your ears should just reject it, but they make it fucking work. I don't know how, but they fucking do. And why don't we work for the audience and do the review of Ju-On the beginning?
All right. Ju-On, the beginning of the end. We start with like, it's almost like a grainy film. Somebody's following a child welfare check. So we have a child welfare worker and a police officer. They're doing this wellness check, and we see it's the murder house. They're looking for a young boy named Toshio, and the place is just trash, smells bad, and they find him in a closet dead. As the cameraman, he looks in there, he falls down, everyone's kind of freaked because they see a dead body. That's one thing I kind of like about these movies. They don't treat it like, oh, I found a dead body. Whatever. It actually affects people, as I think it would any normal person who doesn't see a dead body on a regular basis.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It actually is really well done, the way that they react. And they definitely have
in so many American movies, someone finds a dead body and they go, oh dear, what happened?
Yeah, they act like I do when I find them, basically.
Yeah. What? How many dead bodies are you finding?
My lawyers advised me not to answer that question.
And how many lawyers is that again? As many as the dead bodies you're finding?
I forget what my response was that I was using because you just broke me up with that, but it's enough to be plural.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, as the cameraman, he falls down, we see Toshio behind him kind of rise up, and then he grabs the camera, he's looking around, he looks down, and Toshio's right in front of him, and then this is where we cut to our first story, because again, it goes in stories, so that's how we're covering this. And we go to our first story, Yui. As a young teacher named Yui, she is taking over a classroom for another teacher about halfway through the year. Even though she's young and everything, she's pretty qualified for the job, but she's nervous about it because it's her first time taking over a class.
It also kind of seems that perhaps this lady knows this classroom is fucking cursed and is just throwing a sacrificial lamb to it right now.
Kind of seems that way.
Just the way she's acting, where she's like, yeah, that's fine. Just go. Like she's trying to be really dismissive.
And it also could be the fact that they haven't heard from the old teacher for a while. So it's not that she knows anything is cursed, but this lady's like, God, where's that other goddamn teacher?
Yeah, she's in a fucking dire situation where she doesn't even care that this lady's qualified or not at this point.
Yeah, she needs somebody to fill that seat to teach the rest of the year for these kids, or else she's fucked.
Yeah.
She's happy. She calls her boyfriend, lets him know. And then while she's leaving the schoolyard, she sees a yellow umbrella in the middle of the yard. She walks in the middle of it, and we see it's made this weird spiral. this is something new to the story. So anyway, later on, she's talking to her boyfriend at home, and she's nervous about teaching and all that. And he's a script writer. None of that really makes any sense. This is all just kind of puffiness to show a connection between her and her boyfriend.
Oh, it's just a life that they're supposed to have together, but it also explains some things too whenever she starts operating machinery and stuff like that like, you know, a teacher necessarily wouldn't know.
Yeah, because her boyfriend's able to do it. So I taught her how.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So at school, she's kind of going over the notes of the previous teacher, and she sees that a certain student named Toshio has missed a lot of class. She talks to the principal, and she says the old principal met and talked with the parents. It's not like they just forgot about him, she says. And she says, now he's your student. So later on in class, she's kind of walking around, you know, going through a lesson, and she sees a spiral symbol, that same one she was standing in, carved into Toshio's desk. That's the end of that story. Not a whole lot to go off here, not a whole lot to really recover. The action isn't starting yet, but it'll get ramped up. It's a slow burn to start everything off.
Yeah, I was looking up to see if there was anything significant for spirals, because spirals show up like a lot.
Well, I mean, spirals are the whole thing for the ring. I mean, they called it the spiral.
Yeah. Well, and it's another mark for O is what I just found in Japan, like a spiral. It was like another mark for what would be used for like O or a circle or something along those lines. But there's a lot of, I mean, just spirals in general, I guess, are creepy because it starts in the beginning and, you know, like you end up just, it's either out or inward. You know, you're either spiraling into a descent or you're just coming out, but moving around in the circle over and over again that's ever growing. And that's how it creates it. And it's like, you know, it's symbol for mazes and stuff like that. So the confusion or just like the idea of being lost or what have you. But I think in this case, they're trying to show the world of the cursed ghosts and how it connects to the world of humans. And that's what the spirals symbolize.
Huh.
You know, because
yeah,
just kind of what they were going with here, because whenever the people are first introduced to it, there's always one spiral. And then as this grows, it becomes like it grows into two. And then the people start drawing them themselves. And it's sort of like symbolic of that other world slowly calling to them. Kind of like when they were haunted in the original films, they would see visions of what their future would be in some way, shape, or form and not know that was their death. This film does that as well. And I think the spirals are part of that. When you start noticing the symbols, or if you come upon one that someone else drew, it helps spread that curse. It helps mark you.
Yeah.
Kind of like getting Keiko's diary does, but in this case, the marks, it's just like a way to build the tension without doing the slow build that we got in the other ones. It's more of a symbolic and kind of flashy thing that they're doing.
I see that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a disparaging comment at all. It's just they're setting it up here and I wanted to acknowledge it and talk about it without really spoiling what happens, but it's a motif.
It is a motif. So, then we go to the next story, Nanami. I'm going to say Nanami. All right. We see some schoolgirls. They are going to check out a supposed haunted house. One of the girls, it's four of them, but one of the friends, Nanami, she's very scared. She's easily frightened. You know, she's a bit skittish. They get to the house and they go inside. It's obviously murder house. But it's very clean and put together inside. One of the girls mentions that her sister is trying to, her renter's company owns the house and they're trying to find renters, but they're having problems doing so. They're all kind of looking around, just talking, but it's all kind of really boring to them. But then Nanami, she starts hearing kind of moaning type noises up the stairs. So she goes even further up the stairs than the other girls are. Well, one of the girls finally asks, why are we here? Who told you? And she goes, well, my sister says you could sometimes hear laughing and footsteps, child laughing and footsteps. Then they find these weird child drawings of just her, you know, just weird looking stuff that you can't tell, like somebody laying in a bed, somebody's head on fire. They kind of just laugh them off.
Yeah, well, the one guy's face is covered in red, which we know that what that symbolizes. But then there's another person that, like, it looks like their jaw is all distorted and they make fun of how badly it's drawn. But those of us that have seen these films know that that's not what that represents for that jaw being drawn down like that.
No, we all know what's getting ready to happen here.
Yeah, we know how Jaws work in the fucking Ju-on series, and we're waiting for it. So that's what this film does well. It grabs pieces of things that the fans of the series would want to see in a Ju-on film and repurposes it in a new way that is not really like that different than the way we saw it before, but just enough to where it feels fresh. I think it's a really well done reboot, and I want to point that out here because these are predictive. And you can tell that they're predictive because you've watched the other films and you know what these are going to represent for the drawings. And the fact that you figure it out on your own, it doesn't take away from your enjoyment. It's a nice thing to see that they're continuing from the previous series, almost like, they're using what works is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I can say. They took everything that worked in all the previous movies for this or stories, and they put it in here. And that's awesome. They give you all the hits.
That's how you do a fucking reboot is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. You take all the shit that works and you fucking use it.
Yeah, and you don't do it ridiculous. You just put it in to where it serves your story just like they did here.
Yeah. Well, Naomi goes up to a bedroom and she hears noises from the closet, but then the whole room starts going crazy. She sees black stuff coming up and around, and she gets locked into the room, and then there's a lot of noise and knocking on the walls and all that kind of stuff. Then she looks down and there's Toshi right next to her. And of course, that's disconcerting for anyone. And,
the new Toshio is actually really
Toshio. I'm sorry, what did I say? I say Toshi.
It doesn't matter.
I've
mispronounced it as well, man. We're going to fucking do that. We're American
But
idiots.
the new Toshio is scary as fuck.
He is really, really good at doing the sad puppy dog stare that is terrifying that we got established in the other film. And the way that he just looks up at someone or will reach his hand out and touch them, absolutely horrifying. And they actually did a really good job with making his motions even more scary than when we see Kyoko later, what we actually see with her.
Yeah. All right. So then she goes back to the door and she falls out of her room. Her friends are there. They're all kind of looking at her. They go, "What the hell happened? You look pale, really, really pale."
Did you notice the tone and color of the house shift when she falls through the door and it's like a little brighter, sunshinier day when she's out
it's back to warm. It's back to looking how it looked when she first entered.
That was really cool, actually, the way they did that.
Yeah, I agree. Then their friends laugh and they run out and she follows and, scary stuff all there.
Yeah, there's...
and that's the end of that story.
Okay, the big difference in this one that I had a hard time getting over, but once I realized it was a different story, I actually paid attention that it was a reboot.
Yeah.
I kind of let it go and didn't worry about the things that they changed. But my biggest issue was Toshio now hums a sad, kids tune almost that's really kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. And there's no sounds of a cat. But he also, I miss the Toshio that just is just silent. And then when he finally makes a move where he's coming for you, then you hear the cat meow and scream. I do kind of miss that in this one, but only on this very first showing. After I get used to the idea that, this Toshio just sings or hums a little tune to himself, cool. It's still fucking creepy. I just, right now I'm like, oh my God, what happened to the cat in this one? I was like, I'd much rather you don't have a cat get murdered in this one, but I feel like they're going to do it. And I'm just dreading it because now Toshio just hums because it's a different death.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunately for you. I know it's definitely going to happen.
Right. And I didn't realize that basically what part of the timeline we're in, because this one jumps around. It's anachronistic as well, where it doesn't follow a linear timeline. So the Toshio that we're seeing right now might not be the Toshio that had a horrific death around a cat.
Yeah. Right. But Jesus. So we wish, but that's not always how it happens.
Right.
Let's see here. So then we start our next story. Kayako. Yui visits Toshio's home, and we meet Mom Kayako, who does not look like she is very well. She almost looks gray. And the actress who plays her is it's really just creepy. It's really a good one.
She does a dead-eyed blank stare, not dealing with the reality that she's in a little too well. It's disconcerting. It actually does feel like someone that has detached from reality. It's like that sort of glassy-eyed, just not there stare that you get from someone that is blackout drunk on their feet and that they're not there anymore,
Yeah. So, she says, hi, I'm looking for Toshio. And Kyoko tells her that Toshio will be back soon. She's with his dad. And she's like, oh, did his dad take him to the hospital? And she's like, no, she's just like, they'll just be back soon. Well, Yui then goes upstairs and she hears that kid moan, same as Naomi heard. And she checks a room, but before she can open a closet she's really hearing it from, Kayako appears.
It's important to note that the doors are taped the fuck shut, and she has to rip the tape off. She kind of just forces the door open, which, if the door's taped shut like that and you're hearing a kid, I can see why she does it.
Yeah, right.
But like at the same time, this should be a red flag that you need to get the fuck out of there and get the police in here.
Yeah, right. It should be started right now. So,
right. Door taped shut in home with child making singing noises behind said taped shut door. Get cops. That's what they're there for.
You need to do that. Like now.
Child Protective Services needs to be here and documenting this bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is not good. None of this. And you should be out of this house. But of course, everyone has to be their own investigators at this time.
Dude, it's a fucking horror movie. And plus, I mean, in all reality, what we're saying and what we would actually do is two different things. We would probably not be as smart and be like, holy fuck, we got to get this kid out of here.
Yeah, something. Yeah. We'd probably be like, hey, we could totally do this too.
No, I mean, in this day and age, I would be like with a camera phone videotaping and like, hey, does anybody else hear this? Look at this. This is not healthy.
Yeah.
And then I would immediately excuse myself and then get the cops and Child Protective Services.
Because, hey, we're fine. Everything's fine here. We're all fine. Anyway, Kayoko says, this isn't, she was like, oh, I was just searching for Toshio's room. And she's like, oh, well, this isn't Toshio's room.
Bitch, this door is taped shut for a reason.
Yeah, right. So let's just calm it down here, lady. So she says, hey, I made you some tea. Come on downstairs. Yui goes downstairs. She sees the teacup. It's like just a dirty cup. There's nothing really even in it, right?
It's the remnants of what looks like green tea because it still has like the matcha and stuff that's at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's basically someone else has finished that tea, and as dried as that looked, it had been there for a very long time.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
This is old school style ghost or yurei story done really well. I've seen some other Japanese haunted house stuff where it's yurei stuff that's similar to this, like in the traditional vein. And this has got it down, man. It feels just as like old school ghost story creepy as those.
Yeah, it really does. It's like, what kind of the heck is all of this really doing? What's the hell are we doing around here?
Right. The interaction with the ghosts is something that we've seen before in the series. And I think what they've ended up doing is they found a way to amp up the tragedy of it because you're witnessing these people in their repeating patterns that we've seen even in Black Ghost and White Ghost. They showed it. And, you get that in some of the Grudge and the Grudge 2. Not as much in the Curse and the Curse 2. So
yeah,
they're growing it out for more of a psychological horror in this than just the quick jump scare of Kayoko's like death rattle, or you see her hand go into somebody's hair. We do get that eventually, but the way that they're amping it up here is by amping up the tragedy and making you relive it while doing it with the echoes from the past ghost story. And she gets there and sees that empty teacup. She should get the fuck out of there for her own safety, yet she stays because she's concerned about the child and this woman's well-being. And again, it's that culture of caring that exists over there that's being flipped on its head to harm others. It's so well done.
Yeah, I mean, really is, and makes for a very sympathetic victim.
Yeah, this is how you do your reboot. Totally.
Yeah. Kayoko is now sitting at a table. She's humming and drawing or writing something in a journal, and she goes to check on her. And then all of a sudden we get that Kayoko stare at her. And she is now just scratching into the paper, but we see she has been drawing just tons of spirals herself. And then Yuri runs out of the house, and that ends that story. That was the creepiest thing, man, because the actress that got to play Kayoko was just oofta.
Yeah, she does Mentally Disturbed in a way that makes it feel real, but also is very sympathetic. It's kind of a cliche the way that mental illness gets handled in a lot of horror, and I think it's used a little too much as an excuse to, just be thrown into horror film. But in this case, you don't know if this is just her repeating ghost that is, expressing the torment that they're going through, or if this was her losing her mind before she was even turned into a ghost, before her death.
Yeah, this could be just right before her death. Like, this is the family's final few minutes or final few days before they are murdered.
Yeah, but it really amps up your sympathy, as you said, and it really amps up the distress of the situation and the fact that she's mentally disturbed in such a way that feels even more severe. But at the same time, you're actually seeing how she's being haunted because, again, they've changed it to where Toshio is originally the anchor point.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell that now. Like, it's becoming more and more obvious by this point, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Yeah.
I like what the other thing I want to point out too is, like, you know how Toshio was sometimes there in ghost form, like in The Curse, where he met the teacher and like he seemed like he was okay until it escalated in The Curse.
Yeah.
I like that they're doing that with Keiko in this one because it makes sense. The second victim is what we saw in The Curse, being the ghost that kind of led people in and made them think that, you know, someone was still alive in the house. And doing it with Keiko in this one really drives home the fact that she is not the origin or the anchor point. It's really well done and it's super subtle. And by the time you realize it, we're on the next segment, like moving on, you know?
Yeah, right. And you're just like, okay, well, this is all just horrible.
Right. It's like I said, it's a very effective film. I watched this like first thing in the morning after I did Max Shot right before we got ready to record. And like, you know, light of day coming in my house, cats running around like maniacs being fucking crazy. And I'm still scared shitless with the headphones on with this film. And it's at this point I noticed that the sound design isn't quite where the previous films were. It's a more modernized and using scoring techniques to try and scare people like scare chords. But what they got going on the screen and the story makes me completely forget about that and forgive it and not even worry.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next segment. I'm good if you
All right. Next taker is Yayao Oi.
Yeah, good luck with that one because I heard them pronounce it and I'm like, that, like, there's no way we can produce that properly without practice.
Yeah. One of the girls who's with Naomi, one of her friends, her name's is Yayoi, and she's at basketball practice, but she seems very tired and the coach is like, you need a break. And as she's resting, the basketball court is inside. The gymnasium also has like a stage where they probably run theater stuff. And as she rests, she sees the curtain move. And so she decides to check it out. She goes back there. She starts hearing really weird noises, and she seems to get colder and weaker the more she goes to look. Well, she gets really freaked out, and she runs to the nurse's office, but no one's in there. So she crawls into bed under the blankets. Under the covers, she brings something up, and she finds that drawing of a person in the bed that she found in the house. And she's like, what is going on? Then she looks under, and Toshio is under the covers, and she gets dragged under. Then we cut to Yui is meeting with the principal and tells her she met with Kayako. Principal's like, well, I don't know, if you should have done that. So we've already met with them. She does say, hey, something's really wrong here, with them. And she's like, don't say that. You can't say that. Parents will freak out if they think we're talking about them, which is kind of weird, but all right.
It's supposed to be like a respect thing. Yeah, but they need to go to the fucking authorities. This is where I like kind of feel like the principal or whoever this administrative person is that hired her is making her a sacrificial lamb. It really feels like it here.
And part of me can see that. I think part of me more is like, she's like, don't, as most administrators are, don't cause waves. I hate causing waves. I don't want to cause any waves. Please don't do this. Because, the last thing anybody wants, especially in any of these movies, as a school principal, is to cause waves, apparently.
Yeah, okay. So basically don't close the beaches. I get you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. Then Yui asks about the old teacher. He was like, wait, can I speak to him to find out what maybe he found out about all this? And that's when she gets told that the old teacher died. The principal was just informed that morning that he is dead.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. She goes checking his old notes again. And his notes, he wrote down about his visit with Kayako, and it was very much like her own visit. He just, she kept saying that everything's fine, but he got an off feeling about everything, so that can't be good. So then She goes to the next page of notes and there's nothing there. Nothing. And then all of a sudden she starts seeing spirals on every page. The same spirals everyone's been drawing. Later on, her boyfriend comes home, finds her sitting in the dark, just staring at the spirals. She snaps to and they decide to go out to eat. The next day in class, she is working and she sees Toshio is actually at his desk, or, just looking down.
This is not good.
No. But she seems relieved because, hey, he's back. Okay, everything's fine now. Or is it? She starts reading a book to the class, and she keeps hearing this scratching. She sees Toshio is scratching another spiral into the desk. She freaks out, grabs his hand to make him stop, but then all of a sudden he's gone, and all the kids are just kind of staring at her.
Oh, it's important to note that she says his name, and then the kids look at her and get scared.
Yeah, all that happens, but at the same time, there's still a second spiral at that desk where there wasn't one, and that's the end of that story.
That was really cool, and this is what I was talking about where the spirals connect. So basically, now that she's cursed from going to the home, she gave him purchase into the classroom, and now I feel like that second spiral represents him symbolizing that he's connected his curse to this classroom completely now.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think it's a really interesting way of doing it, and I really dug how they got in to watch his thumbnail digging in, and you see him chipping the wood and the paint with his thumbnail.
Yeah, that was actually really good.
Yeah, and the way that they do it is really creepy. And when she says his name, the kids all pause and look at her and are really scared. But they're trying to be like, wait, what? It's like a confused scared where they're not sure what's going on. And then she gets even more involved in it with him scratching at her desk. And I think she says his name again. And then they're all kind of looking at each other. And it's just this really subtle way of doing it, where if you're paying attention to the background when she's doing this and not just being creeped out by Toshio being there, you know what's happening, but at the same time, you can kind of see what the way the kids are reacting. You kind of wonder if they see him too, or if any of them actually see him too or not. And it's not until she goes to grab his arm and then you realize she snapped out of it. You wonder if maybe even she said anything, or if she just kind of paused and the kids are just looking at her because she just kind of froze.
Yeah, right. So you don't know. It's
right. Is it in her mind, or is this actually the haunting? But then when the spiral's there, it's no, this whatever she experienced, this classroom is now marked too.
Yeah, something's bad everywhere right now. So
yeah, and the spirals as the mark, and then someone obsessing over spirals or staring at them as the working of the curse, begins to work its way on them, is really well done in this, and I like the symbolism that they have there.
Yeah, it's actually really good. So yeah, all perfectly good and creepy right now is how I'll say it. All perfectly good and creepy.
Yeah, and it's showing how it's spreading out. With each connecting point, it gets further and further and increases its circle, or it's spiraling out. Yeah.
We get further and further from God's love.
Sure. I just meant the size of the influence over people and the world. It's showing that it's spreading, but in this case, it's spreading out instead of a vector of person to person and area to area. It's actually spreading out in a spiral where it's just moving its way further and further because it's where these people dwelled as well.
Yeah.
Can also be marked. So we can move on now. I'm done.
Cool. All right. Then the next story is Rina. Naomi and Aoi visit Rina, one of the other girls who was with them. Her mom does not look well when she opens up the door and says, she can't come out right now. They're like, please, we're her friends. Please let her see her. She's like, all right. Takes her up to her room. They're trying to open up the door. They finally open it, and you see it's because she had the doorknob taped. When they enter into the room, the entirety of all her drawers, everything are taped shut. So, not good.
The motif of having a closet door taped shut that we saw in the previous Grudge films is amped up to the nth degree. Just the severity of anything that could open up on its own or anything that is mobile being taped so that it cannot move. Just, oh my God, just the visual cue of just how severe things have gotten for this person. And I love the doorknob being taped shut. It's one of those drop down doors where the knob, just basically you grab a handle that sticks out and push down, and the other door on the other side, it has to move like that. Like they have in office buildings, or they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what her bedroom door is like, which is weird. Why would you not give a teenage girl a lock?
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of families don't believe even in closed doors in their homes. So to let you know what kind of people can be who they can be, you know?
Okay, that's fine. We're not going to get into that dynamic because I'm not going to step on any toes with that. But anyway, the door taped shut or that knob taped shut like that and the way that they did it, and then how hard they had to pull on the door handle, it looked like it was going to start to bend before the tape gave. It was really fucking creepy.
It was really, But
anyway,
they go in there.
Yeah, we're in this giant room. Sorry.
Yeah, they find her hiding underneath her desk. She's like, they're gonna she's like, the pale child's gonna come and kill me. As Aoi tries to talk to her, Rina seems to see how everything is not looking all that great. All the drawers are the tape is starting to peel off. All the drawers are starting to open. And she's like, we gotta go. We gotta go right now. We've got to get the hell out of here. She's kind of pulling at Aoi. Rina actually grabs Aoi and says, hey, I need you to help me. Please help me. And, Aoi gives her a little charm off her neck.
There are a couple flashes of Toshio actually in the drawer. I was about to say, stuff.
Right before they leave, they see, or at least I think Naomi sees Toshi.
I think he's coming out of the drawer or some shit.
He's coming out of a big drawer up top.
Yeah, and like he was looking, like when the cabinet door opened up, he was actually like, you could see him looking out too, but he didn't do anything. But like right before they leave, he actually comes out of a fucking drawer a little bit.
Yeah, and they leave, and later on, Rina goes to make herself some tea. As she's doing so, she gets her face burnt, much like one of the pictures that they found. And so her face is all burnt up, and she's screaming, and she falls down, her back against the fridge, and then we see some pale little hands grab her.
From the fridge, right?
From the fridge, grab her from the fridge, and then pull her in. And Rina's no more. Sad.
They literally fridged her.
That night, Naoto, Yui's boyfriend, he's working and decides to make some tea. As he's doing this, he starts hearing a cat. And he's like, well, what in the hell is that?
This part sucked.
So anyway, he goes to check under the table, and then all of a sudden the microwave starts going off. And he's like, what in the hell? And he hears the cat in the microwave, like something's like a cat's being microwaved, for crying out loud. He goes in there to check it out, but there's nothing in there. And everything seems to be fine.
That was so fucked up.
Yeah, right? Whew, makes you go, Jesus Christ. So then we cut to Yui. She's grading some papers, and after a while, she's not really grading the papers anymore. She's literally just making the spiral on every paper.
Yeah, she circled something on papers for like the longest time while she was grading. And then she stopped doing the other grading and just started doing like a circle, but was starting to be a spiral. And then like 3 or 4 pages in, she's just drawing spirals like a maniac and realizes it, but can't stop and is scared.
Yeah. So as she's looking through all of that, and she's like, well, that's probably not the best for me. And getting a little more creeped out, we see Kyoko walking behind her, and she hears it and goes to check, and she thinks it's her principal. And she's like, ma'am, and she follows her all the way into her classroom, and there no one's in there anymore, but she does find the journal that Kyoko was working on, that she was drawing in. Let's see here. So then Naoto gets home, and Yui is all of a sudden just drawing circles on the window, and he has to yell at her to stop and pulls her away, and then she passes out. Naoto then starts reading the diary, and we see that Kyoko was desperate to have a baby. She really wanted to have a child. They kept trying. Like in the beginning, it was like, you will touch me and we will be, together forever. And I will be pregnant and we'll give you life. And
Clips.
Me and your dad. Yeah. Shit. Jesus. But me and your dad will, all this and that. All very on board. Maybe a little obsessive about wanting a child, but all in all, it's not terrible.
It's
just somebody who really wants to have a baby.
Yeah, but it starts off with someone who is obsessed with having a child, and
Yeah.
it devolves into someone that their entire life and existence and meaning only has purpose if they have a child, and
then
becomes obsessive to the point where it looks like they're just going to give up all hope, and then blank pages.
Yeah, and then she keeps talking about how Teoko is always going on business and she can't get pregnant if he's not around, and she's very mad. And then it all, goes, as we said, it all goes kind of dark.
Real dark, real fast, then blank pages. That was fucking
blank
creepy.
pages. That was creepy. And so with all the blank pages, and then all of a sudden starts writing again. And it says, I can't believe it. You will, I had my dream. You touched my stomach, and now I am with you. You are with me now. All this kind of, stuff. And, she's pregnant now. She's like, Teoko, while not the father, he will now play the father. Kinda, you're like, skedios. Then all of a sudden the book starts flipping pages by itself. Naoto stands. It stops on one page. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of papers rip out, and we see an eyeball moving around in the book, and that was creepy as hell.
Yeah, that was really well done, and that's traditional Japanese ghost story shit right there. That's really fucking creepy.
Yeah, I was just like, damn.
Right?
Let's settle it down here, movie. I don't really want this in my life right now.
My cats are going fucking crazy, and there's a goddamn eyeball in that book.
Motherfucker.
It was really well executed too, because it was an actual person's eye moving around. It wasn't some bullshit animation or CG.
No, it's an actual knife.
Yeah, there was a practical effect where they somehow got someone underneath the table and they cut a hole through, but still made it look like their eye was just there on that last page. It was cool.
Yeah. By the way, that's the end of that story, too.
Oh, well, that's all I had to say about it. We can move on.
All right. But that whole sequence, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely fucking terrifying.
Good stuff everywhere, good information, and we're kind of seeing, this is where the story kind of changes. Instead of being obsessed with another man, instead of her husband, she's just obsessed with getting pregnant.
Well, of having a child. By the point that she was ready to give up, she didn't care how it happened, and she was making it sound like she would sleep with other men, or she was getting ready to. But then that's where she's at her most desperate, that the grudge curse that is based on Toshio's initial death is now feeding into, and that's what we basically saw by the end of that. And then the eyeball looking out is basically, you stare into the abyss long enough, it's going to look back, basically.
Basically, it's just how it is.
That shit was so fucking horrifying. I'm just picturing it in my head right now. We should move on.
All right. So, Aoi. This is the story of Aoi. Aoi is washing dishes with her sister, and she keeps asking her sister about the house that they're trying to rent. The sister doesn't really want to talk about it. Then the sister's husband comes out and says, you haven't gone to the house. And she's like, no. And then she kind of gets it out of her that she did. And he goes, but please tell me you didn't go inside. And she's like, no, of course not. I wouldn't do that. And the sister's like, yeah, I'm not buying it. She goes, go take a bath. And they both looked very, very concerned. And she's like, this is your fault. You always, talk about it at home. And he's just kind of like, yeah, I guess I fucked that one up. My bad.
Yeah, your sister's about to die a horrible fucking death. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Yeah. Aoi then goes into the bathroom and she's just staring in the mirror. And then all of a sudden she sees a pale hand in her reflection come up, grab her lower jaw. We all see where this is going. All of a sudden we hear her scream. Her sister walks into the bathroom looking for her, finds just a shit ton of blood all around, and then goes in another room and finds her lower jaw.
She turns around and looks into the shower, and that's where the lower jaw is.
Yeah, and yikes. So that's some fun stuff. That's a fun callback, and it's what we want. That's the kind of shit we want.
I love how the jawbone is completely clean because the rest of the body is now gone. And the blood trail just stops midway, right? And then there's just a small trickle from there where the rest of the body's gone, but the jaw just gets tossed, basically, is what it looks like into the shower. Just to be like, yeah, I was here.
Yeah, it was here. Now it's not. Goodbye.
This is the first violent death we really see this ghost do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's Toshio's hands, by the way. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious Toshio's hand. Then we cut to Nanami is on the train and she sees Rina and Aoi. She goes up to him But they turn around and they are all fucked up. One missing a jaw, one with the burnt face. Great effect in the missing jaw.
Oh, yeah, that was fucking horrific. I think they used a little bit of CG with that, but there was also practical makeup, but it was so quick, it doesn't matter. Definitely looked better than the blacked out face for the missing jaw in the other film that they showed it, and that one was very effective too. Yeah.
Yeah. She falls and sees her like a giant friend, Yayayo, the one who died in the nurse's office. She's just sitting there and she's like saying her name. And then she looks and all of a sudden now she's in the house. The murder house. Then all of a sudden she gets pushed around, jolted around. She's screaming, "I'm sorry." And then before you know it, she gets dragged away. Right as the sister comes in with new tenants to rent the house. The new tenants are Kayako and Takeo.
And Takeo...
look very happy and very much in love.
Yeah, Takeo is actually told by the sister, you know the history of you told your wife, and it seems like he doesn't tell her.
No. He says, no, I told her. And she still wants to be here. And she's like, that's weird. Usually it's the wife who gets nervous about those type of things. He goes, yeah, that would be weird. So I think Kayako still wanted the house. I think she was a weird kind of soul, and there you go. And Kayako comes down and she's like, we have to move in. They all walk away and we see Naomi's bag is still on the steps, and that's the end of that story.
But
so we're kind of seeing what this timeline is looking like here.
Yeah.
We know we're jumping around.
The sister doesn't actually see the bag. We just see the bag.
Yeah. I mean, no one else sees that bag. They all just walk around. We're the only ones that see that the bag's still there.
I just wanted to say that we know for sure now that all the girls were in the house before Kayako even bought it, which is why it's Toshio coming for all of them.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So,
now.
Yeah. And you're going to figure out how it's Toshio, because this shit gets really good at the end. I love really what they did with this story.
Yeah. And we can move on then. That's fine. Because that's the only thing I wanted to do was the timeline at this point.
Yeah. And that will happen here at the end of this next story. And we'll go through the timeline, because that's this next story explains the timeline perfectly.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I'll follow your lead on this. Go ahead.
All right. Next story is Naoto. So Naoto, he goes to the renter's office of that house to discover more info. The dude who he's talking with, he's the brother-in-law. And he tells him, after some back and forth, finally, Naoto's like, listen, a friend of mine, or he goes, someone I really care about is strange things are happening to her, and I want to know what's going on with this family. And the brother-in-law says, it's not the family, it's the house. He stated 19 years ago, a boy was found dead there, and we know that's from the first footage we saw. He then tells him, he goes, if your girlfriend went into that house, be very careful. He goes, 10 years ago, my wife and her sister just went into the house, and that's it, just went in. And then he looks over his shoulder, and we see both their memorial pictures up. So his wife has died as well. And so now we know the timeline. 19 years ago was the boy's body was first found. Then the 4 girls were killed, and the sister apparently, so 5 women were killed 10 years ago from that house.
Yeah, so 1995 is what we see at the very beginning of the film. The video of the wellness check with the police officer, the teacher, and the guy with the camera. That was the first death of Toshio where he was supposedly found starved.
Yes.
But if you look, whenever he sees the ghost in that, there's blood underneath the kid.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was blood or black sludge, and supposed to be kind of how that explains all the black sludge.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it's probably the body has been rotten, and that's why they state that it's in the color, and that's supposed to be the pus and, grime and stuff that is melting off of them. The putrescence.
The putrescence.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's 1995 when they find the kid.
Yes.
And then 9 years later, they're still trying to do something with the house. The sister's trying to rent it out or sell it.
Well, yeah, they probably the company that they run, this renters company that they run, bought the house after no one would buy it, and are just trying to rent it out.
And so the sister hears about it, and Aoi hears about it, and tricks her friends into going. And they're the first 4 to actually go in the house because no one else did yet.
Yeah, no one else had.
So that's why they get what they get, and why Toshio is coming after them, because Kayako hasn't even been in this house yet.
No. And we find out that most of this is going to be based on Toshio here in just a second.
Yeah. So basically, they've moved in, and then it's 10 years later, and the school teacher that we've been following, that's been going on with this, she actually hasn't even, like, she's just now cursed too. But while we've been watching her curse, hers is after Keioko's taken as well.
Yeah, so I'm under the belief when she went and met Keiko, that was actually Keiko, very alive, but at the tail end of her life. That's why she looked so bad. That's why she was a little crazy. I think this is right before, and we will see the vision, right before, I'm sorry, I'll bury the lead for everyone here, right before Tayako kills her. This is right before Tayako kills her. I believe as a family, they're all kind of just stretched thin, and that was actually when Yui met Kayako. That was probably one of Kayako's last days of being alive.
I don't think Kayako was alive. I think what that is a repeat of the last days of her life that's imprinted on this house now.
So maybe that's her when the first teacher went and visited?
Yeah, that's the same thing that the first teacher went through exactly. It's just being repeated. Anytime a teacher visits, that's what they see. Because in his notes, he talks about how when he went to go visit Kayoko, she just kept repeating the same thing over and over again, that Toshio was fine and he's just upstairs, you know?
Yeah, or with his father.
Yeah, or with his father, right? Like, it's
okay. I could accept that too.
Well,
that
it's supposed to be.
was
It's
the
10 years.
repeater.
It's 10 years later that Yui goes there. So this is like, Kayoko's already dead.
Well, I would say maybe not, because Toshio is supposed to be about 10 years old.
Right, but like how?
So 10 years later would make sense that Kayoko, because we're going to see some family films, so that Kayoko and Takio moved into the house. It took a while, obviously, for her to get pregnant with Toshio. And so 10 years later would make sense. 10 years after Kayoko and Taki rented the place, because they rented it right after the girls died. So it was about 10 years ago. 10 years later, it would be about the same time Toshio would be about this age when he's gone missing.
All right, that's fair. I get it. So he's been alive for 10 years, and it is possible that those are the last days of her life. But
I would also say maybe I agree with you that he died because the last teacher just now died, which means he just went and visited him as well. So I could also see that it being a repeating ghost, that was what it was like when he visited her.
Yeah, I think it was
just on repeat for Yui to see.
Yeah, right. I don't think that the kid came for him, because once he was reborn into Kayoko, there was no point in the curse repeating, because he was given life again by, possessing her body and becoming her child is basically what happened. So I don't think that the curse was still going at that point. I think it was that Kayoko, knowing what she knew, was driving her insane even further. And Takeo, being who he was and we'll see, knowing that he's not the father and how that response actually happens. We're going to see that more later. But I think that all the stuff that we see about how it happened with Teiko taking out the family this time around, I think has already happened before the male teacher comes. I think comes in, because I think those deaths are basically what drives it. It's like several days later, the kid hasn't been to school. He does the first check, and then he sees something that is so horrific, or the curse comes for him and he goes and runs and hides, or is immediately taken care of, but his body turns up later just so it moves the next teacher into position to recap.
It's possible.
But basically I think that Kayoko and everybody is dead at that point, because some of the hauntings and some of the things that happen that we see happen with Teiko taking out the family, like how the cat dies, have already started haunting Yui and her boyfriend or husband.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I think it has already happened. Whether it was 10 years ago or not doesn't matter. It has already happened, and Kayoko interacting with Yui is part of the repeating ghost curse. Just like we saw where sometimes people would see a normal looking Toshio and not realize that he's the ghost.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I think you're right, as in it happened probably right before the 7 days where Toshio had been missing school before the teacher went to go visit the family.
It happened somewhere in
there. I think that's
when
it probably happened.
Yeah, either the 7 days before that or in one of the 7 days where Toshio wasn't there. Somehow they were dead before that teacher checked. Yeah, we can move on.
All right. So then Naoto, he goes to check more info, like the public record, and he found the article for the boy who was found dead in the house. Well, his name was also Toshio, and he looks just like exactly the other Toshio. Then we cut to Yui showering for some reason. I was waiting for a fist to come out of her hair because that's a popular thing. They never did it, so it was just kind of weird to see. But okay, whatever.
Well, I think they were subverting your expectations and just making it creepy, and you were waiting and waiting and waiting, and nothing happens.
I think you're probably right on that. It's just, all right. So he runs home and he goes to check on her. She's in bed, but he sees something moving underneath the covers. He pulls them off, but there's nothing there. Well, he opens up his laptop, goes back doing more investigation, and yep, we see it is definitely the same kid. Toshio from the past is same as Toshio now. Then all of a sudden we see a hand go into his mouth. We know this is Keioko's hand. It turns him slightly. He sees Toshio, and then his neck is snapped all the way so his head is facing the back way.
Creepy as fuck the way they did that, and the effect looks really good.
Yeah, really good. Yui wakes up. She finds him, starts screaming. Then we cut to her standing in her empty classroom looking out the window, and we see the two spirals on Toshio's desk are now connected with a line. And that's the end of that story. So now we've established timeline. Most likely we established when the family died was probably about a couple weeks before Yui took over as teacher. And there you go.
Yeah, I think we pretty much got it all laid out, and the way that they do this is extremely tragic, and by seeing how Keiko kills people in this film, we can infer how Keiko is herself killed in this film.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So, let's see here. So then we start with our final story, and it's the story of Toshio. Goddamn, this is going really quick, and I think it's because it's streamlined. It's really good. We have nothing to pick apart, and we kind of agree on most things.
Well, it's very much straightforward, and there's not a lot of symbolism. And I don't want to talk about what I think, like how these deaths occurred, because we actually see more of how the deaths actually occur in this film when they actually do. Yeah. So you just have to wait till you get there. Yeah. But also, it's extremely straightforward, and it's just a good fucking ghost story.
It makes great use of its time. It's an hour 30, and it uses every bit of that hour 30. There's not a lot of fluff. The most fluff you get is probably at the very beginning of the movie, setting up Yui becoming a teacher and, her life with her boyfriend. That's really it.
Yeah, but
that's the most fluff you get, and even that's you're establishing characters. So at least you're meeting people. It's where you expect some fluff. After that, it's ground running.
We call it fluff because we want to get with the spooky, we want to get with the gore, we want to get with the nudity.
Or just get with the main storyline even. It's a character setup time that you need.
Yes, character development is what they call that, Matt.
What I mean by, I'm sorry, maybe I should, instead of fluff, filler. There's not a lot of filler. Like, later in the movie, there's not a big, 5-minute long chase scene that just needed to be 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that the film does really well is it's establishing character moments, and it's not wasting any of those times. It's literally slowly easing you into it as Yui is investigating the story. She is our anchor point as an audience. The thing that we are witnessing, we're watching the story unfold from her. And as she learns the history, and as her boyfriend learns the history of what happened previously in the house that she had entered, we get to learn it too. And it's just as haphazardly as they find out the information.
And what else is great is that not only is Yui a center point character, but so is kind of her boyfriend Naoto. You switch between who you're following in this movie. It starts with Yui, and then it changes to Naoto when Yui becomes too overcome with the spirit. And then after Naoto dies, it goes right back to Yui.
Well, I think that it'll become obvious later on, but I think that there is a different motivation for what's happening to Yui and how she's being haunted versus Naoto.
It's two different hauntings for both of them, and I agree with that. I'm just saying it's cool that you get two perspectives in this movie. One from the girlfriend, one from the boyfriend. Yeah. They both become centralized characters. She's the centralized character who you're following, like you're seeing the movie through her eyes, mainly in the beginning. He becomes the middle after she comes to overcome, and then she becomes the end after he dies.
Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, we kind of saw him die.
I know, I'm just being stupid.
We kind of already saw that shit.
That twisted neck shit is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it is. It's fucking horrible. So we start the next story, Toshio. Yui goes back to the house. As she tears through that, all the tape and opens up that closet. She finds photo albums with Toshio and Keiko's faces all scratched over.
In spiral, no less.
In spiral. Then she finds tapes and she begins watching them. The first tape is them bringing Toshio home from the hospital. They're all very happy and excited. Then the next few tapes is like how Toshio doesn't really want to be around his father, doesn't recognize him as his father, won't call him dad, only wants his mom. Like, she's like, oh, hold your dad's hand. He won't do it. They're trying to have a picnic, and it gets really awkward because he's like, you will call me dad. And she's like, stop. He doesn't like that. You can tell whatever Toshio is, even in human form, can affect people. While she's watching the tapes, she also sees a tape of Kayako sleeping, and then Toshio, the white Toshio, comes out, touches her stomach, and calls Kayako mom while she's asleep. That's how Kayako becomes impregnated by the ghost of Toshio to give birth to Toshio.
He touches her stomach and then he actually like lays down on her and disappears in the video. Yeah. I love how she just finds this camera and immediately knows exactly how it operates by picking it up and just looking at the buttons. She actually scrubs through the video on this thing like a fucking professional. She knows how to hit the buttons just right, like and not damage the tape and shit. Like she's like working a camera deck like it's an editing machine really well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really well.
So it would make sense that she would take interest in her hubby/boyfriend's hobby and may actually go through tapes with him or something like that. And that explains why she's so good at this, as opposed to just like any fucking character that just finds a tape deck and immediately knows how to use it. Even though some people are a little daunted, especially like as old as that technology is for a fucking video camera with a tape in 2014.
Yeah, right. It's like, holy shit. What are you doing? Tapes? What are we, Amish over here?
Yeah, like a lot of times it's like a fucking hard drive now that's built in or swappable.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, then she gets a vision and she looks and there's Kayako asking whose child Toshio is. Kayako, obviously also starting to break, starts laughing at him, saying it's only hers. He had nothing to do with it. He's no one's father. He kind of grabs her and breaks her neck the same kind of way, not as severe, but the same kind of way she does to Naoto.
Oh, and did you notice that she tried to breathe right after her neck was snapped, right before she dies, and you hear the death rattle as she does it?
Yep. And then that's where the death rattle comes from, of course. Then all of a sudden, Toshio calls out for his mom. He's holding his kitty. Dad takes kitty, puts it in the microwave.
Fuck this part.
Cook it. Yeah. Then grabs a knife. And he starts walking over to Toshio. And that's when she kind of snaps back to reality. Then she kind of looks up into the attic and she finds Kayoko's dead body, which then becomes sentient and starts crawling after her. It chases her around the house a bit. She sees Toshio first looking normal, and then she runs a little bit more from Kayako, and then she sees Toshio looking all pale. He touches her stomach and says, Mom.
Like a lot.
So then, once again, pale Toshio shows up, touches her stomach, calls her Mom. She's cornered by them both, and then all of a sudden she wakes up in her own bed, in her own apartment. She hears Naoto calls her and tells her that she needs to get up. It's time to get ready. So she gets up and she comes out, sees some tea on the table, looks over, and there's Naoto with his broken neck stumbling after her. This is horrific looking. Toshio is sitting on the counter. Now Naoto makes the death rattle, and as he advances on her, roll credits.
That was so fucked up, dude.
I know. Good God almighty.
Yeah. I could not believe the way that they did the ending, but at the same time, I really dug it. So Kayako was just kind of taking a back seat on this one and wasn't used as much. The actress doesn't quite do the movements that we need to make Kayako as terrifying as possible. So I don't know if they just kind of threw it in there because they were forced to do it instead of using just all the Toshio ghost stuff, which was working just fine for me. But we definitely see Kayako as taking people like her husband, so that's fine. I think that at some point when Toshio is touching her stomach, he's trying to join with her so that he can be reborn again. She refuses him, so therefore that's when she's taken by the husband. When she wakes up, she's back in her own apartment and her husband/boyfriend or whatever is taking her on behalf of Toshio as punishment.
Are they trying to keep her alive because Toshio again wants to be reborn?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing, is the film doesn't show you what's going to happen. Like, are they just trying to torment her until they break her down and he can basically possess her too? But she doesn't really seem to want a child, so I think he had to use Kayoko's desire and almost obsession with wanting to have a child, paralleled or equal to the obsession.
But even then,
with her.
Toshio was asleep when he impregnated her.
Yeah,
I think all he has to do is touch your stomach and be like, hey, Mom. And then there you go. You're now pregnant.
Well, if it's also kind of part of his curse to be reborn and then basically die at the hands of his neglectful parents in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and we see how this grudge came. Now, because, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about the differences. Where the first grudge came was because Kyoko was, of course, obsessively in love with another man, her husband being a jealous prick.
I was trying to get at that before you cut me off, actually, but go ahead.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry, man.
No, you're excited. I'm happy to see you really are enjoying this movie as much as you are. It's clear.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm loving how they do the reboot because, and then, so you have all that and she's now has to, so instead of, again, a woman obsessed with another man, husband finding out, killing her and his son, then, doing what he did to the teacher's family, creating this grudge curse.
Well, in the original curse, it was also supposedly she got pregnant by this teacher who on a tryst and then tricked the other guy into raising his kid, is what they
Was that
implied.
how it went? Because I didn't think that he actually was...
No, they say
that she got pregnant.
By the time they get to the grudge, he's actually saying that where it's another man's child. I was cursed,
Oh, okay.
I was tricked into raising another man's child. So yes, they do say that. So it's still he gets tricked into raising someone else's child. It just turns out that he's got tricked into raising a cursed child.
Yeah. So unlike that, though, this is a young boy. He's left alone by his parents to starve to death, and they just leave the house. And that, at least in our view, we don't know if anything happened beforehand or not. In our view, that leads to the grudge beginning.
Well, that's the initial tragedy that curses the house, and it's growing by claiming other victims. Yeah,
it is the Toshio curse. The problems with Toshio. So while Takeo and Kayako might have been a perfectly happy couple, when they moved into the house, unfortunately, they decided on that house, and Toshio was able to grab them, and I think also affect both of them in their mental status. So I don't think Teako wasn't a jealous prick who's like, I'm going to kill you. Teako was very much possessed by whatever Toshio is and caused to kill Kyoko. And Kyoko was obviously as well very unstable as well. So
I think Kyoko was kind of unstable before they bought the house. I think that the house represented like the normal life that would finally make her feel complete and normal, and the oversized house and then starting to have kids and filling it with life thing that she wanted was represented by this beautiful, it's a beautiful house. Like, I can see where if you could get this for the cheap, even if you're just fucking renting it, you would want to have that house. So I can see where she would like forgive that a kid may have starved to death and not thought that, that would be a problem. Or even maybe she was just so desperate to have the appearance of a normal life that she chose this house anyway, and that doomed them both. But it seems like there was something off about her is what they were hinting at even when they were first getting the house.
Well, and also it appeared to me she was a much younger wife while he was a much older husband.
Yeah, that as well. So it's a little bit different in that case as well. The way that they do the timeline and the way they do the jumping around and then they reveal it, and then when you finally see the actual deaths, it's absolutely horrific and heartbreaking. And it, like we said earlier, this just grabs all the best parts of the previous series and all the stuff that was in the other Grudge films, that basically the things that worked for us and we liked, and they just basically repurposed it in a new story and a new timeline. And by making it that Toshio is the victim of child abuse before anyone else is even involved from a previous family, it adds an extra layer of tragedy because there's nothing that's going to fill that, like that type of fucking grudge that would be created from a child starving to death from neglect, from his parents just abandoning him alone in a house. It's just, that is just so absolutely horrific and terrifying to think of, like what kind of power that ghost would have from the grudge that he would create, and the way that he sucks Kyoko in and the other folks and brings them in and makes them a part of it and it spreads is much more terrifying to me than what we've seen even in the previous one. Because you could feel like, well, as long as you don't go to the location where the house was in the previous films, you would more or less be okay. Like you could go to another area where the curse might be and it would creep you out and you would sort of feel it, but it's not as strong or what have you. But it'll still eventually get you, I suppose, as it grows in strength. Like this one is just, it's like a spiral. It hits a person and then it infects the area that person's at even more. And it just continues to spread out in an ever-growing pattern. And you can just kind of picture seeing the plots along the line of following the people and just moving further and further out.
Yeah. And it is But yeah, it was just an excellently done reboot.
Yeah.
Taking all the best stuff.
Yeah, and there's a sequel that's done by the same folks or some of the same folks that are involved that we're going to be doing next week, and I'm actually looking forward to that. This was a breath of fresh air and a pleasant surprise, and I got to say, after we did Black Ghost, White Ghost, I was like, oh God, what's the next one going to be like?
Yeah, right. I thought the same way. I was like, oh, what are we getting now?
Yeah, and so maybe I'm a little more forgiving of this one because I was going into it thinking, oh, this is going to be a reboot. This is going to fucking suck. But no, this turns out to be the way I would want a reboot done, and I'm actually really pleased with it.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's great.
And I think that the type of storytelling that this Grudge gives you really does leave it open to where anyone that dies in this type of horrific circumstance could become part of a Grudge. It still gives us the original story with the characters that we know and love for being terrified by, but it gives them in a new way that still makes it a new story and then shows you how other people can be affected by the Grudge. Again, like the way that I would want you to do it in the franchise. Give me some of the things that are familiar with so it's comfort food for me while terrifying the shit out of me.
Yeah, right. Same. It's good shit.
All right. Well, I think we should probably do a quick PSYOP news and then call it a day. Why don't we finish it up? You got anything else you want to say? Or?
No, I'm good, man.
All right. Well, we're going to take the break here with the band Shoya and Tokyo Ice Cream. When we come back, we'll do some PSYOP news. So that's Shoya with Tokyo Ice Cream. And this is a very different style of music for Shoya. They're kind of showing more of a sensitive side with this song. They're usually much more like a hardcore rock and roll kind of thing. They've got like the traditional screamer hard rock from the 90s sound to their music. And this is very different, but I really dig it. So I'm happy with it.
There you go. Yeah, I think it still sounded good. So we're all winning here.
You just have a weakness for Japanese female-led fucking bands, my dude.
I guess, dude. Jesus Christ, who knew that was fucking on the docket?
Yeah, well, that's the way it is. So why don't we just stop talking about it and give us some PSYOP news?
Let's see here. This is from our man Pete.
Oh, that would be Pete from the Good Beer Bad Movie Night podcast.
From IFL Science. After hitting his taint, a man ended up in a hospital for 9 days with a grade 4 erection.
I just realized I don't have the clips up. Fuck, I needed a bunch right there.
A man suffered a 9-day erection after a very minor accident involving his moped.
It's the erection that counts.
It is.
Always looking for Wang.
In a study published in the journal Case Reports in Urology, doctors described the case of the 35-year-old British man who fell off his moped and hit his taint, or his perineum, the part of your body between the genitals and the anus.
Oh, don't try to sun that as fucking Josh Brolin will teach you.
I have the most confused erection right now.
He developed bruising but had no other significant injuries. However,
that's my fetish.
He went on to develop an erection that lasted for many days longer than is ideal. Perhaps embarrassed, the man allowed the erection to persist for days before he finally went to a doctor. On examination, quote, on examination, there was a grade 4 erection with a rigid base and shaft, the doctors write in the report.
Your bloodshed boner lasts more than 4 hours, he had done.
Yeah. Definitely don't wait 9 days. Grade 4 on the erection.
It's destroying my bloodshed boner, okay?
Grade 4 on the erection hardness score, and yes, that is a real thing, is the hardest erection on scale, where the penis is completely hard and fully rigid. Or as any teen going through puberty would tell you, Tuesday.
Shut up. Are you talking about penises?
Yeah. The man had not suffered pain in his erection, though he did report mild discomfort on walking, as you would probably expect.
Yeah, and also trying to lay on your stomach to sleep.
And we're back to dicks.
Doctors took a blood gas analysis of the area and found that it was consistent with a high flow of pre-prism, a prolonged erection caused by unregulated cavernous arterial inflow.
It always comes back to dick.
You always pick these fucking articles and you know it's going to have words in it you can't fucking pronounce.
Yeah, well, the people love it.
That's my fetish.
On the two types of priapism, high and low flow, this is the least dangerous type. Low flow priapism is caused by a blockage, preventing the flow of oxygenated arterial blood from reaching erectile tissue in the penis. This type is often painful and requires urgent treatment, as if enough oxygen doesn't reach the tissue in the penis, it can begin to die off, leaving permanent damage.
I started doing drugs after that.
Yeah. High flow priapism is the type this man developed. It's a lot rarer and usually a result of blunt trauma. The doctors performed an ultrasound and CT angiogram and determined the cause and found damage to the cavernous artery, causing, I wonder why we have to name things like this, because it's fucking ridiculous.
They stuck to the dead thing.
Causing unregulated pooling of blood within the sinusoidal space, propagating the non-seismic erection due to the continuous supply of oxygenated blood.
Drop the humongous balls.
Whew. Essentially, the injury, as he sustained falling off his moped, was causing too much oxygenated blood to rush into his penis.
Let's jack it or something.
I mean, you would think maybe that would work, but I don't know.
It's the erection that counts.
Yeah. Generally, high-flow priapism is treated conservatively through ice packs, mechanical decompression on the affected blood cells, or just holding the patient for observation till it desists. The doctors explained the case study. In this case, however, the doctors decided timely intervention needed to be considered to avoid potential risk of erectile dysfunction in the long term. In order to avoid potential erectile dysfunction later on, the doctors opted or artificially restrict blood flow into the penis using a catheter, to insert a gel-like foam in a microcoil. He was sent home to recover, and a year on, he is back to normal. Self-reported erectile function has slowly improved over the course of 12 months, the doctors reported. Long-term follow-up has shown return to normal erectile function 12 months following the injury. God damn. So there you go. Woo!
I mean, I like dick.
Yeah, well, okay. But yeah, so ouch. Careful when hitting your taints, fellas, because it could cause some other problems.
Yeah, so if you're into getting your perineum punched, you might want to reconsider.
You might want to back up off of that because it's not helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, like you need to rethink about doing damage to that area because apparently
it's going to cost you some serious cock.
It will. It's going to cost you some serious. That's a true statement.
And there's a lot of weighing around.
Right?
So just be careful because if you bruise that, you're going to basically have an issue.
Yeah. You're gonna have a lot of problems. Your bloodshed boner lasts more than 4 hours, you're done.
All right, this will just be a shorter episode this week, but that has not that in any way, shape, or form reflecting how we felt about the movie. We both actually really enjoyed it.
The movie we enjoyed. It was just so streamlined and we agreed on a lot of things that were good.
Yeah, so let's just stop fucking around. Let's give these people a short episode and let them get on with the rest of their fucking lives. And we'll close it out with Bandmade and the song Warning. It has an exclamation point, so you have to say it that way.
Yeah, warning!
Right after the Ending Legion show promo.
If you enjoyed this show, then make sure you check out the other great shows on the Legion Podcast Network, like Cinema Psyops, Cinema Beef, Devour the Podcast, Duncan and Bo Come Correct, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, Friday the 13th, Get Slayed, The Hellming Power Hour, Hello, This is the Doom Show, Hero Hero Go Show, Kill the Cast, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, Jerry Hates Action, Legion After Dark, Mental Health, Obsessive Cinema, Discourse, Pick Six Movies, the podcast by The Cemetery, the podcast on Haunted Hill, the Psychosemantic Podcast, Rick Radio, House of Wax, Dude Looks Like the 80s, Rabbit and Red Radio, the Shadecast, Short Bus Cinema, Two Drink Minimum Commentaries, the VD Clinic, Who Will Survive Horror Podcast, and Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock. With such a widespread of shows, there is guaranteed to be a niche for you to fall in love with. Horror, politics, movies, books, sex, music, commentaries, health, video games, kaiju, action, news, comedy, and opinions that would most likely get you killed in some parts of the world. We are proud to bring you some of the best podcasting in the world. Check us out at www.legionpodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and any other dark corner of the internet where podcasts can be found.
Bandmate will fucking suck you in.
Right?
You'll get
Jesus
stuck just listening to their music and not even realize where the last 5 minutes of your life went.
I mean, you don't have to wonder. You were having a good time listening to some music.
That is so absolutely true. Well, if you'd like to find the other instances where we have shelled out for every band that I've played, you're going to have to get on the Legion Patreon to be able to do that, just like the ad told you, because
yeah, right.
That's the only place where these music is actually available. Otherwise, you're just going to be listening to whatever I found on the website that we can use royalty-free music for, because, you know, we got to do what we got to do on the main feed, folks.
Gotta do what you got to do, man.
Yeah, if you want to hear the episode as it is intended, go ahead and support Legion Podcast. You're going to help out a whole bunch of podcasters by doing it. And I think the lowest tier, and you can hear this fucking pirate radio edit.
Yeah, right?
And if that's not the case, Kevin could probably make that happen.
Yeah.
I would hope they at least get this team with the lowest tier.
Yeah, the lowest tier.
Well, if you'd like to
We are the lowest tier.
If you'd like to find all the previous instances where we talked about music that you can't hear, although if you go far enough back, you might actually hear some of the songs because the bots didn't scrub them yet. Cool. LegionPodcast.com/cinema-psyops-podcast is where those episodes are located. And, the other ones that have the actual music in them I still have in some way, shape, or form. So, maybe we can get them via some way, shape, or form. Anyway, we also have a meme repository on Instagram called cinema_psyops.
All them great memes.
Those memes are posted thrice daily during the work week for the working days in the working hours that I am working while I should be doing something else. I'm posting those memes for all of you, for those of you that are toiling and suffering to make ends meet and just try and get some fucking food for yourself and your family.
Yeah, those goddamn bills.
Oh my God. And it's only going to get worse for everybody. But one of the places where we try to make it a little bit better for you is our Facebook group, where we also share those memes that try to make you laugh and forget about the collapse of your industrialized society.
Yeah, because fuck it. Fuck that society. Let it crumble.
I hate it. There's a bunch of crazy folks just like you at the Cinema Psyops group on Facebook having a good old time. Also, we have the Discord chat with Legion Podcast. I've put the ability to get into the Legion Discord or the invite for the Legion Discord chat in the show notes now. I highly recommend everybody joining over there. Things are fun and just kind of keeping it light and all of that stuff. You don't have to worry about all the other bullshit you see on social media there. I wanted to mention that, even though it's not in the show housekeeping.
Yeah. Yeah. We keep it cool and light around here.
I'm Cinema Psyops there, or Court Psyops, but you will find me in the Legion Discord, and you can also find me on Facebook as Court Psyops, although I'm less and less active there, other than posting some articles that I read and podcast episodes I listen to.
Yeah. Fuck Facebook.
More or less. Do you have a diatribe, something you want to write, something you want to describe, something that you enjoy, some kind of link to a website that I probably won't click on because I think you're trying to steal something from me, you can all send that to cinemapsyopscourt@gmail.com.
How dare you try to steal our identities?
Let alone...
By the way, if you steal mine, can you help? Because I got a lot of problems.
Well, if you take cinemapsyopscourt@gmail.com, that's going to be a really weird one to take because that's not even my real identity, so...
Yeah, same. That's That's not going to help anyone. What are you guys doing over there?
While you're out there trying to figure out what it is you are doing over there, kick the fuck out of this week and make it your bitch.
Hello. Yeah.
All right, so you heard that?
Yep, and I'm recording. 1, 2, 3. And everything's coming off well.
So waveform looks good and everything?
Yep.
All right, I just watched my counter click up to like 27, 28, 29 seconds, 30, and so forth, and et cetera, and et cetera.
Et cetera, and et cetera.
You get nothing!
You get nothing, sir! Nothing!
Etc., etc. Yeah, sorry. Every time I say etc., I think of that scene where he freaks out.
Same. Every time I think of it, yeah.
All right, so Ju-on, the beginning of the end?
Yep.
All right, I actually got music for this week. You gave me just enough time to be able to find some stuff, and so
hey, all right.
We can do pretty much a full-blown episode. I think we got plenty of time to be able to do that. We started relatively early, so compared to last week.
Yeah, right? No shit.
Yeah. All right, so let's rock and roll, all right?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
Hold on a second. Give me 1 second now.
Sure.
All right, my laptop just decided to make a lot of noise there. Anyway.
Oh, that's not scary.
No, that's not scary at all. But let's just get through the show. It feels cool, so we're all right. If it was really hot, I'd be concerned. That could have just been something weird running.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you had anything else.
I'm done.
You're done?
After saying it's a motif, I'm done.
When they're kind of looking around, they're all like, they're all, sorry, 1, 2, 3.
It's like that sort of glassy-eyed, just not there stare that you get from someone that is blackout drunk on their feet and you know that they're not there anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Which I've seen way too much in my lifetime.
Right? Hey, listen, I told you, I'm sorry I sent you selfies. Just settle down.
I've never seen you blacked out. Like, you're always there, which is what creeps me out about the amount that you can actually consume and still be there.
Motherfucker, I'm a next level kind of guy.
You come from a long line of Wisconsinite drinkers.
That's also true. Oh, Jesus. I'm a piece of shit. All right, so.
That's not necessarily the case. You just like your drink.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting out of it, believe it or not. It's just kind of, I don't know.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, it's just not as fun. And thank God, it's a good cut, so it's none of that weird-ass shit.
The Hindi cut, or the Hindi audio dub.
Cut.
Yeah, the Hindi audio dub.
Because that was terrible.
Did you watch the film again without that when I got you the new copy?
I have not gotten a chance to, no. Just because shit's been nuts for me lately.
No, I understand.
So,
yeah, I just was hoping that you got a chance. Okay, go ahead, man.
I'm going to try. Because I really want to.
They literally fridged her.
The fridge. You could say she's on cold ice.
Ooh. Not that was too far, just that it wasn't good.
I know. All of that.
Okay, so this is basically, if you put the timeline in order, right? I did the research, and by research, I mean I looked up Wikipedia. But
Well, I'm about ready. If you want to wait, I got the timeline at the very end of these notes.
Okay, yeah, we'll compare and contrast at the very end of the movie. I think that's a really great way to do it. I'll wait.
Oh, shit. Hold on. I got to do a part here. I totally passed over.
I'll punch that in because I was talking so much about how good she is at scrubbing the video, and I'll fix it.
All right.
And then the rest will get excised to the outtakes.
There you go.
Hey, I want to grab a drink and hit the bathroom. You want to do the same, and then we'll come back and come in?
Sounds good.
All right, I'm back.
Cool.
All right, so 3, 2, 1, music. Where
all those great memes.
All the great what?
All them great memes.
It didn't sound like that's the way you said it before, but that's going to be an outtake. But anyway. There trying to figure out what it is you are doing over there. Kick the fuck out of this week and make it your bitch. I had nothing else. I didn't know what else to say.
Fuck it. What else? I don't know what else to say either, so I'm fucking stopping this recording because it's over.